YouTube members, you have a job. I had to completely reinstall Magic Online to get it working again. If any of my settings seem noticeably off after I upload this video, please leave a comment and let me know. Everyone else, hello! Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Mark has asked me to brew around Heartless Summoning. Heartless Summoning is a really sweet card that saw some play in Standard back in the day, and I believe a little bit of Modern play as well. It's kind of like a double mana dork if you squint at it funny. Creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, but creatures you control get -1, -1. But presumably, if you are casting large giant creatures or things with crazy triggers, you don't super care about the -1 ability. And Mark's challenge was to make Heartless Summoning work. Mark's original deck list was what I will call cute and was exploring some interesting space. It had kind of the Nick Fit shell going on with Veteran Explorers and Eye Twitches, with the idea being that they immediately die and you get their triggers immediately. But I spent a long time working with that deck before abandoning that overall idea. It was very difficult to get Heartless Summoning and those cards and enough payoff into the deck in a reasonable way. And the Eye Twitches and Veteran Explorers dying immediately means that you couldn't do some of the loops with the Learn cards that I have really liked in some of my other versions of Nick Fit. So I did a live stream. You can check that out under the Lives tab if you're interested. And chat and I brewed this deck instead. So we are going to play what I'm going to call Heartless Rakdos. We are a Goyf-based deck here. Now, Pyrogoyf's trigger is awesome, but it happens when it or another Lurgoyf enters, meaning that playing additional Barogoyfs or copying them with Fable of the Mirrorbreaker is kind of cool. And we are going to have a top end here of Chaos Defiler, which I think you don't so much care if it is a 4/3 off of a Heartless Summoning. I think you like the ability to create a creature that nukes something immediately upon entry that punishes your opponent if they remove it. This was a very difficult deck to brew. I am hoping that it performs okay. Rakdos is not exactly a great color pairing in Legacy, and we've had very mixed results in playing Rakdos decks on the channel in the past. The goal here is that we're pretty respectable versus fair stuff, with Fatal Push and Sheoldred's Edict, as well as Chaos Defiler serving as removal. Pyrogoyf technically counts as removal as well. Barogoyf stabilizes the board versus a lot of smaller threats. And we have Hexing Squelcher and Thoughtseize to force our stuff through versus combo. And then the majority of the sideboard here is dedicated towards improving the spell-based matchups with things like Duress and Pyroblast and Grafdigger's Cage, helping out with things from Dredge to Oops to Natural Order and Show and Tell, all that sort of stuff. We are going to be playing a handful of things in the sideboard that I can sub out for something like Thoughtseize if it doesn't fit well. We have a couple of cards with overlapping but not quite identical effects here, so that we have some outs to various artifacts while still making the cards reasonable to board in versus just fair creature-based decks. Plus, we have the very silly 1-mana Magus of the Moon off of Heartless Summoning, which is kind of cute. Watch the live stream if you want the entire version of the story, but Magus of the Moon was something that started out in the main deck, and we started out running even more swamps than we currently have now. But towards the end of the video, we decided Ancient Tomb was important for making these into earlier plays. Folks, should you need any Magic the Gathering cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com, and when you do, use promo code ThrabenU to save yourself a little bit on your order. Whether you need some Commander stuff or something from the new Marvel set, consider checking them out to support my content. With that being said, let's battle. Alright, I have a weird-looking hand here. This is supposed to be there. I don't think this hand has a plan to win the game. I think I just mulligan this one. Huh! 5 it is. Okay. So you, and I think I'm going to do this. I think it's close between trying to keep something that has high upside like Fatal Push versus potential Tameo. Misty Rainforest comes down. I have another Overlord, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I potentially just want to get basic Swamp here, although if I get Wastelanded, it's already a problem. Alright, Badlands it is. Opponent fetches. We're going to get the Brainstorm in response. We are. So opponent can hide their best goodie. Oh god. It's a thwart. Wild. Where are my Chaos Defilers? I guess I will take Show and Tell. And then there's some timelines where I hit another Thoughtseize to take the other one. But if there's just something good on top of Library, hidden 1 or 2 down, I'm already in trouble. It seems like there's not. This seems like Overlord to look for Chaos Defiler rather than play out Barrowgoyf, which is a little weird. That's not what I was expecting to do here. Chaos Defiler, baby! Let's go. All right, we are gaming. Capital G gaming now. And Overlord is going to keep ticking down. I don't know how relevant that ability is actually going to be this game. We have an Impulse. Notably, in talking about like brewing around Heartless Summoning means that you can't really play Orcish Bowmasters, which is a card that you almost always want to be playing in a black deck. So that's a really, really, really big deal. Opponent to 17 here, and Flow State. Note that much of my opponent's draw does just get around the stuff that I could be doing with an Orcish Bowmasters anyway. Alright, we're Barrowgoyfing. This will put me in range where an Emrakul is lethal. Alright, Barrowgoyf in play. Overlord will keep ticking down. This Barrowgoyf is massive after that Overlord, by the way. Like, putting Artifact, Creature, and Enchantment in all at the same time is kind of wild. I wouldn't mind drawing a land. Hexing Squelcher is okay. So, yeah. 6. Putting my opponent to 11. I will say yes. Another Barrowgoyf to hand. I know that my opponent can hardcast Thwart this turn. This is going to kill in 2 hits anyway. I'm going to take a second Chaos Defiler. My mana split is a little awkward here. I can't cast Hexing Squelcher and leave up Sheoldred's Edict as well. So we will just Squelch. There's another land drop. It is a Show and Tell time. So my opponent can presumably just win in response here with Cunning Wish. That's unfortunate. It's very awkward that I had to show the Chaos Defiler rather than randomly just draw it. So, like, now my opponent knows this is a line that they have to play around. And my opponent is not going to get a clear stack immediately. But presumably they either do a lot of damage to me or get so much for, like, value by casting instants for free. Okay, there's Intuition. Alright, you get an Emrakul. And this stuff's gonna shuffle. You can Cunning Wish now. There's surely some sort of Trick Bind effect in the sideboard. There's like a big expensive 6 mana one. Yeah, Sublime Epiphany. Alright, so there's some Ward as my opponent bounces my Hexing Squelcher as a part of that. So, I'm not technically dead. I'm just upset. I think I am effectively dead, though. Because this happens, which is kind of cute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's everybody. And then I get to choose and destroy that Emrakul. My opponent now has to win a different way, or just cast another Emrakul. So, like, that's a funny interaction. But, you know, Emrakul just came back. Alright, you got it there. GG's. Alright, so Fatal Push, bad. Sheoldred's Edict, we hope not to use, but is not terrible. I want these Pyroblasts in there, and I want these Duresses in there. Shave one Heartless summoning to make the numbers work, keep the Sheoldred's Edict. That seems reasonable to me. Yeah, this is fine. Oh, that was a good game of Magic for me, mulliganing to 5, by the way. I'm, like, perfectly happy with that. Woohoo! Alright. The opponent has Consign as a trick in their book. We're going to have to keep that in mind. And it looks like they're just going to pass the turn. They didn't want the last one to happen, so presumably they don't want this one to happen either. Okay, so I can take an Omniscience, or I can take their Impulse and just kind of leave them stranded with a bunch of cards. I think I'm going to take the Omniscience. That card is scary. And then at my opponent's end step, I can use a Surveil land, and we can decide what exactly we're doing with the Overlord after that. Batch. Yeah, that's fine. Perfectly happy drawing that. So I will Thoughtseize you. Ooh, opponent has drawn a Brainstorm. I kind of just want to leave them with the Force of Will, and if they want to Force of Will this Overlord, I think that's okay. That kind of costs them everything. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Impulse, over Ponder, and then Impending this and see if my opponent wants to counter it. Oh, miss. Rip my cantrip. Notably there, we hit an Overlord, which is an avatar, so we can't get it, and Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, which is not a creature. I considered, like, not doing Fable in this deck list, but it seemed like the looting was important. Fable doesn't synergize with Overlord and Heartless Summoning, which is a bit of a problem. I will simply pass the turn here. I suspect that I do not want to just cast a Chaos Defiler. And opponent has a new Impulse, and opponent ponders. Has a fetch that they can... Oh no, that was a shuffle on that ponder. I don't think I have a second theater. In that case, I will just pull some lands from the deck. Alright, cool. That's something to do with my mana, so I don't have to worry about whether or not I am willing to cast a Chaos Defiler immediately. And a 5-6 clock is pretty respectable here. We will potentially need to fight over some Force of Will stuff in a minute. In for 5. Opponent to 12. Trigger. Ooh, Pyrogoyf Hexing Squelcher. I know my opponent has Force of Will. It may just be that casting Pyrogoyf and taking Force of Will plus a blue card out of my opponent's hand is better than doing Hexing Squelcher. Like, this game, one way or another, might be just very quickly approaching its end. Opponent not even using the Force. So that's 5 to face, lethal on board. Alright, cool. We got that one. GG. A couple of Thoughtseizes. Did some good work in the early game there. And I don't think we've seen anything that is going to make me want to change what I am doing with sideboarding. So, this is such a good, reasonable, fair hand, and probably not good enough to beat an unfair deck like Show and Tell. I think I will just mulligan this one. I'm looking for Thoughtseize Duress Pyroblast in my opener. I'll keep that on a 6. We're going to need some assistance from the top of the deck, though, for sure. And opponent will ponder. I think I'm going to play Badlands and Duress here. There's some timeline where I start trying to play around back-to-basic style cards by fetching Basic Swamp on turn 1. And I think I can Duress first. Alright, opponent has Emrakul. I think I want to take the Brainstorm. I think I don't want my opponent being able to respond to the Thoughtseize. I think now my next turn is Thoughtseize and Surveil Land. Chaos Defiler is a reasonable draw. Slightly less good if my opponent has Dress Down. Flusterstorm is my opponent's draw for turn. Alright, your Spell Pierce works. Opponent will then ponder on their turn. And the other Ancient Tomb comes down. Definitely nervous. That second discard effect was very, very important. Sheoldred's Edict is a thing. I will just Overlord here. Pyrogoyf or Hexing Squelcher. Pyrogoyf is a little awkward in the face of Dress Down. I'm going to take it anyway. I think I just need to present my opponent with something that they have to respond to, so that Dress Down later, well, maybe don't have to respond to, but I would love Dress Down to be used in response to a Pyrogoyf rather than used at my end step to shut down a Chaos Defiler triggered ability on the turn where they cast Show and Tell. Okay, that's no fetch. Oh, yeah? It's a little weird because I do less damage. Oh, that's weird. Because I can do 2 and 2, or I can just cast the Pyrogoyf on 4. I think I cast the Pyrogoyf on 4. I'm trying to maximize for damage right now, not maximize for mana. Oop. So that brings my opponent to 15. Pyrogoyf will kill in 3 swings. We'll see if opponent... Okay, they do have the ability to go past the cards that they put on top of their library, and that is a shuffle, and they hit a land. Now we're in a weird timeline. I attack for 5. Opponent goes to 10. I think I pass. Very awkward, because, like, this is lethal next turn, but if I cast that, I don't have it in hand for Show and Tell counterplay. And now I get to leave this up to put in via Show and Tell and potentially Sheoldred's Edict still. Alright, that is a flow state. Opponent at 6 life. I guess if I played the Heartless summoning, my Pyrogoyf would be dead, right? That's like a thing. Okay, I believe I put in the Chaos Defiler here, despite the fact that Dress Down is currently in play. Yeah. Alright, there is the Omniscience. Is a flow state. Impulse. So versus an Emrakul attack, I can sacrifice Chaos Defiler and be alive. I also have the ability to cast Sheoldred's Edict and remove an Emrakul, which I'll do at end step here. Is that true? Yeah, I think that's true. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Flusterstorm is a reason not to do that then. All right. I still have lethal here, so my opponent needs something else. I just like keep the Pyrogoyf that can go in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Goodbye, Emrakul. We'll see if opponent has another. No. Do I get to limp over the finish line? Yeah. That is a Dress Down. That will buy my opponent a turn. They get 2 more draws that draw from Dress Down and their draw from Draw Step to try to kill me. That'll do. So Firemind's Foresight can then get another Cunning Wish. Yeah, I might have lost that one for not doing that in upkeep. Surgical on the Edict. That's fine. I can't cast it anyway. I have 1 land. But they can just kind of see what, like, whether or not I have another relevant card. And there's another Emrakul. We fall just shy there. Great game of Magic. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I love them. I have over 1,000 deck lists here. And I think the thing that I like the most about them is they're more than just a basic deck builder. If you need information about your next pre-release or where you can get cards, they have that sort of stuff here too. Whether you need to manage your collection or just a couple of decks, Moxfield does it all. So go check them out. All right. Opening hand needs 1 more mana. I think I'm just going to keep it. This would be a hand where ripping a Heartless summoning would be absolutely sick. Down to 19. I imagine I'm going to Fatal Push whatever my opponent plays here. There's Badgermole Cub coming later and a Dryad Arbor right now. I think I will just slow my opponent down by hitting the Dryad Arbor rather than trying to wait for the Badgermole Cub. It's not great either way. White of the Reliquary comes down instead of Badgermole Cub. I have very good fair things coming up. Like Pyrogoyf into Pyrogoyf is disgusting. But if my opponent can just natural order or something, they will potentially just outpower what I am capable of doing. Okay, cool. I did play around Wasteland intentionally. So that's nice. We'll see what sort of nonsense my opponent gets up to with this extra mana. Oh gosh. Alright, well I have like 6 basic lands in the deck. That's the good news. The bad news is my opponent has, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 power on board? No, sorry, 9, I double counted. So, I will get another basic and throw down a creature. My opponent can just, like, phase this out like it ain't shit. They don't. Lair of the Hydra enters tapped here. Probably don't have to worry about that unless Gaia's Cradle happens. Without mathing it, I feel like I'm dead to hoof. Okay, it's Green Sun, it's not natural order. That's nice. Grist is not nice. So my opponent can sacrifice their Wasteland creature, have the Wasteland come back, and kill my Grist, while still swinging in for a very, very sizable amount of damage. They're holding back the Bayou. So this taps for 3 right now. So, okay, yep. Rough. Heartless Summoning is just a turn too slow here. If this had come down on an earlier turn and I could, like, Chaos Defiler here, maybe I've got a chance. We just got overrun there. GG. I have a sweeper here. In my experience, sweepers only work okay versus this deck, and I have some additional removal that I can consider playing. I don't need Hexing Squelcher so much here. That's mostly for the counterspell decks. That can get me most of this. I think I will once again shave 1 Heartless Summoning to make the numbers work and call that good. This does not have enough mana to function. That is going to be a mulligan. Okay. Do I keep the 6-card hand that has Cage, Double Push? Oh, Get Lucky? I think Get Lucky is the name of the game here. I will get rid of the 4-drop and lead on Cage. I do not feel favored to win this game, but I don't know that I'll feel favored to win if I go to 5 either. This, at least, I think, has a reasonable chance at disrupting my opponent for long enough for me to draw out of this. Fatal Push number 1 goes bye-bye. Did not get lucky on spiking the land drop. I have a 2-drop for once I draw a land. Opponent fetches and throws down a creature. My opponent is feeding this one to Fatal Push. I'm still just going to do this anyway. I want to be able to draw a land and then play Overlord, which did indeed happen. Since I'm already wastelandable, I think I will just pick up another Badlands here. Overlord misses again. We have come up with Fable of the Mirror Breaker being a whiff twice now this league. Definitely not perfect deck building. Again, brewing around Heartless Summoning was tough. And as we saw in Game 1, sometimes when we drew the Heartless Summoning, it was just objectively worse to play it than just leave it in hand and cast the creature for full mana value, which is probably telling. I'm unfortunately passing the turn here. I'm in business if I hit another mana, though. More mana. Natural Order. Opponent realized what they did immediately. I think they just top decked that and went, hell yeah, slammed it, and then thought about what they did. Yep. That was particularly devastating. Not only does it cost my opponent the natural order, it also costs them the Dryad Arbor, which is 2 mana, because now they don't have a creature for Gaia's Cradle. All right. Things are turning around. We will continue to get... Yep. Okay. Grafdigger's Cage soloed that one for me. Thank you, sideboard card. I appreciate you. Now that I'm on the draw, I could consider playing some additional removal spells. I think I will do so to help bridge me to the end game. I think I'm going to board out 2 Fables for a couple of these. Do I want Heartless Summoning to, like, help catch up? Maybe I do that. Maybe I do that. I mean, this looks great. I'm in for this. Like, Grafdigger's Cage was very, very good the previous game. And I can start this game off on, like, basic Swamp, Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, Bird is fine. I think I will try to have 2 basic lands here this game. So yeah, I think I Cage immediately over Thoughtseize, but I think it's pretty close. Verdant Catacombs comes down. I don't want to see Grist here. Badger Mole Cub. Transforming Bayou into a creature, and then a white of the Reliquary. Seems good. That is a lot of onboard power. I think I cast Thoughtseize this turn, rather than go Ancient Tomb into Goyf. I probably care more about this additional body than I do my opponent's Thoughtseize. I'm gonna take the Badger Mole Cub here. This white of the Reliquary getting Wasteland and blowing up this Ancient Tomb is currently a bit of a concern. Yeah, you can Thoughtseize me. Oh, Chaos Defiler went. That was the worst card in my hand, in my estimation, because I just assumed that I would be getting Wastelanded off of this Ancient Tomb and that Chaos Defiler would just never be castable. I'm still just taking 6 damage here, though. I'm at 11. Ooh, get bogged. And that is going to shrink these by 1. I would not mind drawing a land. I'm not going to fetch to thin yet. Nice. Down to 10. Grab a basic. Do I play Pyrogoyf here and attempt to nuke a body? If I tap Ancient Tomb, I go to 8. My opponent could sacrifice Bird, phase out Pyrogoyf. I take like 7 damage. I guess I point the trigger at Badger Mole Cub. My opponent phases out the Goyf then. I only take 5. Okay. So trigger at Badger Mole Cub. Bird gets sacrificed. Are you going to phase out your Badger Mole Cub instead? Okay, that's what's happening. Sure. I'm not dead on board as of right now. Life's bad if my opponent can play a creature. Didn't happen. No block. Take 4. Go to 4. Then play Goyf. Send at white of the Reliquary. Okay, I was expecting a response there. So the way this works is, even though the trigger comes from the Pyrogoyf, the trigger says that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So the Death Touch there killed white of the Reliquary. I was expecting a sacrifice from my opponent, like sacrificing something like the Bayou to blank that trigger. I now probably have a reasonable attack. I think I'm just going to hold back. Flash creatures like Endurance exist. I suspect that my opponent has a dead card in hand, but I think I get to just play a Barrowgoyf or an Overlord and grow these next turn and end up in a very, very strong position. Oh, I think they just drew the hoof. That is a Green Sun. Yeah, I correctly identified what was in their hand. It was a card that was stuck there. Whew. I mean, we won that one, but the margins on it were incredibly tight there. Deck is scary as hell. GG's. We're 1-1. All right. Dr. PP is our opponent. Was that a Smash Bros. Player? Am I remembering that correctly? Wasn't that like one of the better Smash Bros. Players of a long forgotten era? Holy moly, I have so much fat in this hand. Otter token, be otter tokening. Boomerang Basics happens. And then Mishra's Bobble. Oh wait, yeah, Dr. PP, PPMD. Yeah, I'm not crazy. I am, however, eating 4 from an otter on turn 2. Wasteland is already going to wreck me. We're leaning in. I get the theater here. I think I just say no to cards that aren't lands at this point. Bobble redraw. There's another land. I think I'm going to feed Sheoldred's Edict 2 days, in the hopes that if my opponent has Wasteland, I lose one of these and not the Ancient Tomb that is going to cast 3 Barrowgoyfs. Please sacrifice a creature token. And then if my opponent doesn't Wasteland me, I have Barrowgoyf around days next turn. And as a 4/5, it is outside of Lightning Bolt range, and my opponent would have to just like bounce it back to hand. All right, there's Ponder. That's not the Storm Chaser's talent coming back down immediately. Kevin Nanny, also known by PPMD and formerly as Dr. PP, is an inactive Smash Bros. Player, one of the 5 gods. Yeah, okay. Solve the puzzle while we're waiting. And then Storm Chaser's talent comes back down, triggering DRC. putting an enchantment into the yard, which is like actually quite good there. So now we need to stick something through Force of Will. We have Daze covered. Force is incredibly strong here. An opponent does have it. All right, there's a Daze that we successfully played around. Opponent was probably like figuring out whether or not it would even be worth it to cast Daze on our stuff. This fourth land can just immediately get back Force of Will with Stormchaser's Talent if my opponent already has a blue card in hand. Oh god, it's Corey Steelcutter. I might die before these like multiple Barrel Goyfs stabilize my hand. My opponent has another spell here. Oh god, their spell is Flow State. Yeah, I take 8 points of damage immediately here. And my opponent can potentially have Force of Will blue card in hand now. I can reduce my life total to 0 pretty easily. Barrowgoyf doesn't work. I'm dead in the air to DRC, so this has to be Pyrogoyf, which loses to Force of Will blue card or just Daze. As is, I am dead to any castable spell, because I can block this 2/2 monk, but the otter is getting through. So any spell does it. Okay, any non-creature spell does it, more accurately. Another flow state will certainly do. All right, I am dead. You get this one, Dr. PP. GG. I'm interested in taking out the self-damaging cards from my deck. I am interested in boarding in things that address Corey's Steelcutter, and I will probably play a couple of Pyroblasts or Brotherhood's End to round out the deck list. Let's do Pyroblasts. My cards are reasonable, I just need to resolve them. This is the sort of reason why Hexing Squelcher is in the deck. This is a reasonable assortment of tools. I can keep this and begin the game on 2 basic lands. I can make it so that all my stuff resolves. I have Heartless Summoning for most of my more expensive stuff. Again, we see that Fable and the Mirrorbreaker is not a perfect card in this deck. I'll just pass my turn here. I would still prefer that my opponent not play a turn 1 threat. I would like that breathing room to get set up. Opponent is going to bobble themselves. See whether or not they want to draw the card. They do not. And they are in fact going to do a Surveil land, getting rid of a Wasteland. Cool. Another basic is great. So now I can play most of my cards this game off of 3 different basic lands. We'll Squelch. Opponent brainstorms. From their side of the table, they're probably looking to remove this Hexing Squelcher, or otherwise just overpower it by dumping a Corey Steelcutter into play. Scalding Tarn available to my opponent. I'm going to go ahead and swing in for 2 here. Looks like I dodged Lightning Bolt. Opponent to 17, which means that I can now resolve Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. Oop, opponent is responding there. Brainstorming. I'm not sure why. Like, they can't find a counterspell to counter that. I guess if they're going to do it anyway, this is as fine of a time as any. They haven't seen anything like Lotus Petals out of me that would indicate I could do something else after this. Alright, cool. Hexing Squelcher somewhat realistically could solo this game. Alright, opponent gets their monk. I can suplex the shit out of that Corey Steelcutter though, and limit the impact that it has on the game. Alright, fetch into Volk. Don't bolt my Hexing Squelcher. Boomerang, basics, my token. So they're going to pay the life for that. That's fine. You can draw. Now I get to loot. I'll say yes to this. Boy, this is a weird looting. I think I go Bam Bam. But like keeping Heartless Summoning and Overlord is certainly a line. Barrowgoyf is real cool. I know this 6/7 Barrowgoyf resolves. Alright. I'm going to throw that down and attack for 2 and not remove Corey Steelcutter immediately like I was planning on doing. Like, if my opponent makes another monk and chump blocks with it, I don't think I care that much. Ooh, 2 Corey Steelcutters, though, is kind of wild. There's a Brainstorm. That'll trigger both. Opponent fetches. Boomerang basics the Goyf. Yeah, no, that's a lot of damage. You just take 10 from that Boomerang basics, which is disgusting. Opponent's at 8, but I don't know that that matters. Alright, I get another blocker here. I'm just very close to dying here. If I just play Barrowgoyf, I'm dead if my opponent can Boomerang Basics that out of play. Barrogoyf and Fatal Push is a decent amount of damage prevention. I'm worried that Suplex and Fatal Push is just not going to be enough. I think I'm going to try to weather the storm like this. It just doesn't feel good, though. Like, the flow state style cards that can just chain together here can make this deal so much damage in theory. Yeah, just like that. I am hoping that my opponent, like, maths things out carefully for an attack that Fatal Push can disrupt. Like, they swing for lethal through Barrogoyf lifelink or something, and then I Fatal Push, and everything is fine. Sort of a weird thing here is that, like, Dazes and Force of Wills that have been off could be cast as burn spells here if I put, like, a Fatal Push on the stack. It's a third fucking Boomerang Basics. I can't catch a break. So I push a 3/3, and I can technically live this at 1 if my opponent doesn't have another spell. Any spell kills me here. Alright, they don't have anything else. They have a DRC, though. There's just 5 bodies on board, one of which now flies. Yeah, I had incredible resources. The triple Boomerang Basics there is a little tilting. I also think my opponent did not have any counter magic that entire time, even though I let on Squelcher. Such is life. GG's. Alright, this hand does not have enough mana to be functional. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan that one. This second one is fine. I can keep it, play the game on basics. I think I'll keep double Thoughtseize over a mix of Thoughtseize and Push. I'm on the play here, so I can take something like a turn 1 Tamiyo before it comes down. Okay, opponent is playing Control. I'm just going to take their Brainstorm. If I take Brainstorm, I'm effectively taking Brainstorm and Spell Pierce with Thoughtseize, leaving my opponent with 3 removal spells. I don't know, I can take the Swords that answers my Goyf and trade like Thoughtseize for Spell Pierce or something. I'll take the Swords. Volcanic Island comes down. Probably want to Surveil with my other mana here. All Thoughtseize. Alright, opponent is going to go with Brainstorm over Spell Pierce here. And then I probably take Prismatic Ending. I could take Spell Pierce, and then it's easier for me to get rid of Teferi, but I think my opponent just taps out on turn 3 or Teferi, and then I can just answer it with Sheoldred's Edict afterwards. Opponent just has so much mana here, not a lot to do with it, and this is great. This is giving me some time to make up for my mulligan. Overlord is okay. If I play Barrogoyf, it just gets bounced by Teferi. I think I will Impending an Overlord here. This game is going to Overlord Missing Fable again. Tilt. Should have stuck with the version that had Magus of the Moon in the main deck, apparently. There was some tension in doing that, though. Alright, opponent just immediately minuses Teferi for the card, which means that I could potentially just resolve Barrogoyf right now. And the next turn, I would still have mana to Sheoldred's Edict around Spell Pierce if I felt like that was a problem. Barrogoyf. Teferi pluses. Island comes down. Back to basics happens. Sure. Interestingly, now Spell Pierce answers Sheoldred's Edict. I'll do black on the off chance that I need to cast one of these. I guess this means I now attack Teferi? Would much rather get my card worth of value. And this card doesn't do anything right now, but it can in the future. I'm going to respect it. Goodbye, Teferi. I'll gain some life. I will Thoughtseize my opponent, see if they've drawn a white removal spell that they could not cast immediately. It's another Teferi. Plains, Tundra, Spell Pierce left. Alright, excellent. Hopefully my opponent does not draw an immediate answer to Barrogoyf. I think if I connect with this and get one more body, I'm in incredible shape. They top decked a Prismatic Ending. The Overlord has 2 counters. Ancient Tomb not doing me any favors right now. Overlord to 1. Alright, cool. Heartless Summoning. Again, strict downside of playing it. It will shrink my Overlord. I'm not going to cast that card right now. And I think this is a great example of like why you don't build around Heartless Summoning. It's so good if you can play it on turn 2 and then start throwing haymakers with it, and so bad as a top deck. Like, this could have just been a threat. That is a Jace the Mind Sculptor. Opponent's going to bounce my creature. That's gonna occur. Goodbye, your Jace. Please sacrifice a planeswalker of your choice. Yeah, cool. So now I will just recast this. So do I play Heartless Summoning? I maybe now play Heartless Summoning. It shrinks this by 1, but can let me, like, cast Chaos Defilers and stuff. Alright. Let's cast this card. We'll do this for 3 mana. Yeah. Chaos Defilers and stuff. So now I can do that on 3 mana as opposed to 5. Heartless Summoning, desperately trying to pay its rent. Rainstorm is the follow-up. If I get Overlord triggers, and I get to start casting very, very inexpensive creatures with Heartless Summoning, it might get to make its rent this month. Tundra comes down. The blue mana is being used for Snapcaster Mage on Swords to Plowshares. Alright, Overlord is answered. That's weird. I can kill the back to basics. I'm not sure that I want to, now that I have Heartless Summoning in play. I don't have multiple basic mountains right now, unfortunately. I think I just do this. Yeah, I think I just cast this. It's very awkward if the one unknown card is Force of Will. Yeah, that's fine. I can take some damage from a Snapcaster Mage. Oh, right, you only cost 1 red now. You are a 1/1, though. And then I'll pass, and I'll have the intention of fatal pushing this Snapcaster Mage. Our opponent does not attack with it. I will use the fatal push. Like, I'm fine with that. Goodbye. 2 mana Pyrogoyf. Dress down. Gross. Absolutely gross. So much for my spells being uncounterable. Another land drop. Snapcaster Mage can now answer Hexing Squelcher via a prismatic... Oh no, it's answering Heartless Summoning. Sure. I'll cast a Barrogoyf. Not gonna trade with Snapcaster there. That is a basic island. I could maybe sneak 2 points of damage here by attacking with Hexing Squelcher. I'm not willing to lose that body, though. I'm gonna let my opponent jump block here. Gain 7. And this 5th mana will put me at being able to cast all of my stuff through back to basics. Another Snapcaster Mage. Going for a Ponder, though. There's not a removal spell in there that will kill Barrogoyf right now. My opponent's red mana is tied to back to basics. Alright, opponent keeps, finds Stoneforge Mystic. Something like a Meteor Sword could be scary. It's a Batter Skull. I'm going to go ahead and thin a land out of my deck here. Fatal Push already hits the targets I want it to hit. That's reasonable. In with Barrogoyf. 7/8 body from hell. I'll pay the full 5 mana for my Overlord. A lot of goodies in there. I assume Chaos Defiler is just very easily the best one. I now have my uncounterable way of answering the Batterskull long term. But my opponent can put Batterskull in, block with it, and then bounce. Alright, they have Cryptic Coat as well. You bet. Oh, wow, this turn now got kind of complicated. So the way this trigger works is I make the selection upon resolution. So I could play this. If my opponent does not respond to the trigger, I choose their Stoneforge, I leave them with Batterskull, and I am crashing in for 11 immediately. And I just assume that Overlord triggers allow me to beat this. I think I assume that Overlord triggers allow me to beat a Batterskull. Okay, so opponent is going to respond, put in their Batterskull. Oh no, it's Cauldra! Indestructible. Oh, that's rough. The Germ and the Cauldra are indestructible. Okay. Get rid of Cryptic Coat then. Oh, Cauldra was a really rough unknown card there. I think I send in with both of these still. The Overlord trigger is incredibly valuable. I use that to pick up a Pyrogoyf. And then my opponent can take out the Overlord and chump block the Barrogoyf so I don't get that trigger. And then I probably work on trying to burn my opponent out via Goyfs. The whole, like, Pyrogoyf into Pyrogoyf thing is pretty potent. I'm just going to send that upstairs. We chill for now. There is the whole Batterskull equip it to Cauldra thing. I am hoping my 37 point life buffer here is fine in that capacity. Oh geez, I have used a lot of clock this game. Narset comes down, sure. The opponent can now dig for removal. Alright, they're chilling. I'm going to pull that last basic mountain out of my deck. Another Hexing Squelcher comes down. My creatures are very warded up. And I'll just pass here. That's a Swords on Chaos Defiler, as it dying later could be a very, very big deal for my opponent. As it's how I remove that Batter Skull. Opponent finds Ponder off of that activation. Very fast shuffle. Okay, yeah, this was something that I expected. So I think I'm just eating that 9 to the face. Another Heartless Summoning. Not what I'm looking for, believe it or not. I think my opponent has stabilized. Crazy game of Magic. This is turn 18. Take another 9. Badlands, not what I am looking for. And I'm also past the point where I can draw Pyroglyph and just 14 my opponent to the face, which was the whole point of taking the Pyroglyph in the first place. That window has closed. It's another Jace. That's another Jace. Opponent fate sealing me. Fatal Push not doing what I need it to do here. I'll kill a Stoneforge Mystic, I guess. But I suspect that we're done here. I don't think I'm going and sending everything in an attempt to kill the Jace there. I will eat 9 more. I think I'm just dead. I think I'm going to preserve clock and concede here. I think my opponent has cleanly got this one. GG's. I conceptually like Pyroblasts for their Planeswalkers. And I think I need this stuff to exile Kaldra specifically. I think I just handily beat a Batterskull. Kaldra is a problem. I'm going to board out all 4 of my Heartless Summonings. That was an 18-turn game. I don't need the acceleration here. And I will probably trim a Fatal Push. Given the rate of the previous game in terms of how long it took, I think I am just going to keep this hand and assume that I will draw some other reasonable-looking resources. This is just 4 threats and an answer to a Jace. I'll keep that. I'm going to double fetch basics. There's some chance that my opponent has boarded out back to basics after seeing that I have 6 basic lands in my deck. Our Magus of the Moon sideboard plan has some weird ramifications. Alright, yeah, no, there are back to basics. There they are. So I will grab a Swamp. And now I get to play around one of like Spell Pierce or Swords immediately. I think there's a decent chance that Spell Pierce has been boarded out. I'm very creature heavy in this deck. Opponent brainstorms. And also, again, 18-turn game. That's not where Spell Pierce shines. Fable does resolve. And if, you know, half of this eats a prismatic ending and the other half eats a swords or something, I'm happy with that, paving the way for some of this other stuff to do its work. Island comes down. Opponent passes. I think I discard nothing. I think my hand's just good. I want all of these lands for Chaos Defiler purposes. There's a Barrowgoyf, and it's going to eat Snapcaster Swords, unfortunately, for us. That's okay. Prismatic Vista. Mr. Percy is yelling at me. Oh, it's Jace. Alright, what did Jace do? Jace brainstorms. And I hit a Pyroblast. That is wonderful. I think I am into Sheoldred's Edict here. Please sacrifice a Planeswalker. And, okay, cool. So now I have Pyroblast. That probably doesn't really back up Reflection of Kiki Jiki. But I have Pyroblast for the next Planeswalker. Yeah, you can brainstorm. Stoneforge Mystic is not Pyroblastable, though. That's Kaldra. My opponent is now attempting to hide Kaldra on top of deck. I think I'm going to Pyroblast that. And have the potential of ripping a Thoughtseize effect. I'm going to fetch. Get another basic, I think. Alright. That's actually not terrible. So there's Chaos Defiler. Goodbye, Stoneforge Mystic. Done. Reflection. Target Chaos Defiler. Now we're cooking with gasoline. Done. Combat. In for 5. And opponent is out of things for me to destroy with Chaos Defiler. It does not go after lands. Snapcaster Mage. That's got to be a cantrip. Opponent brainstorms. All right, we win that one. GG. Anyway, that's why Fable is in the deck. Fable Chaos Defiler is absolutely disgusting. Same logic as before. I think I keep land light hands, assuming that the games go on for a while and I draw out of it. I have an Overlord that I can cast on 2, if nothing else. And I've got 9 minutes of clock for this game. I'm very thankful that game 2 went so quickly. Verdant is great. I will do that and pass the turn. I think I am intending on getting basic Swamp with this, unless my opponent plays Stoneforge Mystic here, in which case I will look for a discard spell or removal spell. Caldra is like very much not something that I was expecting to have to beat in this league, but here we are. So there's Theater. Bloodstained Mire is not going to do it. Fatal Push hopefully will. Fatal Push on Stoneforge. Do I get to buy time, or is there Force of Will backing it up? Fuck. Counterbalance is in there as well. Counterbalance? Counterbalance? It may just be that they have enough cards that are kind of questionable in the matchup that is filling a slot. You're literally one card late. I'm tapping out for big dumb stuff here. And the plan is eventually go to face with Pyrogoyphs. But if opponent can essentially play a tempo game of remove a couple of Goyf-like creatures, fuck. I guess I have Pyroblast. Opponent did not attack. I will go after that immediately. I don't want to see another one. Alright, yeah, there's swords. So I can play a new Goyf on my turn. Chaos Defiler does not solve the problem that I need to solve. Hoping there's not, like, another Batterskull immediately. Yeah! Shit. That's rather bad. Alright, opponent is chilling. In which case, we start the go at face game. Hydroblasted. My Goyf is big. First Strike is problematic. Hexing Squelcher is cool. I'm going to take a turn to play that, and then I'll Overlord. I would rather be hard casting those. I just think I need to use some mana here. I will take another Pyrogoyf. Like, the plan is Pyrogoyf face until morale improves. I have a Chaos Defiler in hand already for that Batterskull. Although, if my opponent is holding open mana, I might not be able to get there with that. Prismatic Ending on my Goyf. You've got it. I will take 9. I go to 9. I will play Pyrogoyf. I think I am going upstairs with that. It's a little spooky here, because if my opponent can remove this Pyrogoyf, there is 9 on board, and I have to block with Hexing Squelcher. Oh, I guess that's another way that I have to block. It is so incredibly hard for me to beat this creature. Shoulder's Edict, make them sack the token, is an out. I think I'll block like this. Keep my Pyrogoyf. Try to assemble lethal here. That's not doing it. I don't know what I am looking for here. None of that is going to do it. Man, my deck is bad versus Caldra. That was a great game of Magic, though. GG's. This has no lands. This also has no lands. That's just the sort of day it's going to be, huh? Alright, I will be keeping this one. At this stage, I probably put back the Narrow card. And I probably hope to go 1, 2, 3 as my curve, and I get rid of Heartless Summoning. A little awkward. The Heartless Summoning is, in theory, pretty good to help me cast cards in this spot, but I think I just need to try to assemble something that does something as quickly as possible, as consistently as possible, given my mold of 5. Another Thoughtseize. I think I'm going to get a basic here so I don't get wastelanded in the first turn cycle. And let's see what my opponent is up to. Allurin. I guess I take that. The second Thoughtseize could be a little awkward here if I leave them with the Brainstorm. I'm kind of hoping that they just cast the Brainstorm on their own turn. Note, I am choosing to take the Allurin and leave them with the Atraxa because I am a Chaos Defiler deck, and I am better at interacting against the Show and Tell combo than I am the Allurin combo. When it keeps their card on top from that Surveil land. They found a Ponder. So Seiju comes down as the land. Mr. Percy's hanging out over here. And now, if I wait a turn, I can always resolve this Thoughtseize. Or I can fire it off now to take Force of Will and a blue card. I think I am going to get the Squelcher in there. Again, if my opponent casts this Brainstorm on their own turn, and I actually get to then take a card that they don't hide, that is highly preferable for me. City comes down. Lotus Petal comes down. Okay, it is a stock up. So I know that my spell will be uncounterable, so I can do an uncounterable Thoughtseize and try to punch a hole in whatever they have assembled over the last few cards. I wanted to draw a land. I did not want an ETB tapped land. We'll take what we can get here. Oh, Omniscience is horrifying. I'll take the Show and Tell, because otherwise Show and Tell Omniscience Atraxa is just right there, and I will certainly lose to that. I don't think I need another Hexing Squelcher here. Opponent to 17. Their hand kind of does nothing right now. However, I'm one card away from being dead in a couple of different directions. There is a stock up. So my opponent finding an Acererak means that the Allurin Kill beats me. Finding a Show and Tell gives Omniscience into Atraxa, which probably beats me. Definitely feeling being on a 5-card hand here. Chaos Defiler is a good hit. Now I have some counterplay versus Show and Tell specifically. And I can use my turn to resolve Barrowgoyf. I have a 2-turn clock in play. I still suspect that I am losing, but I've got a snowball's chance. There's another stock up. At this point, I'm hoping for Show and Tell, right? And not Allurin combo. Because if my opponent goes Show and Tells, puts in Omniscience, my Chaos Defiler trigger wins against that. Opponent will now fetch to 14, losing a land in process. Lotus Petal. Are we going now? Show and Tell? Show and Tell. Oh, thank you, Chaos Defiler. You're absolute bros, Chaos Defiler. Get the fuck out, Omniscience. 6, 11, 12, 13? Overlord? Casting Overlord there probably gets me another card type. Alright, won the mulligan to 5. Thank you, Chaos Defiler. GG's. I am into Duress. I'm into Pyroblast. And I legitimately might play my Magus of the Moons to keep my opponent off of green-green. Like, I do not want Fatal Push. Those become 4 of these cards. And then maybe I pull my Fables, 4 copies of Magus. Alright, I am in for this. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Heartless Summoning, turn 3 1-mana Magus of the Moon. As Richard Garfield intended. Basic Island comes down, opponent ponders, and shuffles. Oh, that's quite good as well. I will Thoughtseize you. There is a Acererak. I think I just take the combo piece. Like, as much as I want to take that Force of Will. I think things that prolong this game are probably good for me. Also, there's some timelines where I cast Heartless Summoning on turn 2 and my opponent just Force of Wills it. Oh, Mr. Percy wants out. Well, there's another Heartless Summoning. Let's go get Basic Mountain. And I am going to cast this. See if my opponent wants to Force of Will. It's good enough to get a Brainstorm. Fetching in response. There's a future Basic Mountain, hopefully. Atraxa to Yard. Heartless Summoning does resolve. I would like another land still. Oh, Basic Forest. That's so unfortunate. So I can cast a 1-mana Barrowgoyf with Pyroblast backup. Or I can jam Naked Magus of the Moon, which will get countered. So I think I am jamming this. And the hope here... I think I hold open Pyroblast rather than do the 1-mana Magus. I think I'm holding this open for Show and Tell, hoping that they don't have Allurin. But I guess the Force of Will answers that. Ugh. I'm not in a great position. I really needed one more land drop here. Fuck. Yeah, that's the Acererak, and then these don't get interacted via my Pyroblast. If I cast the Magus, though, it just gets Force of Willed, and the same thing happens. And I had Basic Swamp and fetched Mountain, so it's not like I had a mana choice that got me to this point. I can cast a Magus. Opponent unfortunately has this one here. We get another game though. And I guess I didn't show the Magus tech. No sideboarding changes. This is an okay opening hand that is going to need more from the top of the deck. I don't think this is a mulligan or anything, but this is just not going to cut it. Okay, I'll take the Allurin and separate half of this combo. Notably, opponent does also just have like basic forest in the opener, making some of my potential top decks worse. If I Heartless summoning, it potentially gets Force of Willed. If I Heartless summoning and it resolves, I can Squelcher and Pyroglyph next turn. I think I play Heartless summoning here. It's like very weird to do that in the face of known Force of Will though. Okay, in play. Opponent does go for the end of turn Brainstorm. They have lines that can just show and tell Atraxa next turn, so I think that makes sense. They just have to find an Ancient Tomb and a show and tell in a couple of cards. Didn't happen, thankfully. Lotus Petal. That is show and tell. I suppose I will put in my Pyroglyph. This 4 damage does not kill Atraxa. I'll send this at face. Oh, opponent's got cards. Would be a great time to hit my Edict and answer the Atraxa. Oh, they only got 3 cards off of that. Ancient Tomb, Stock Up, Hydroblast. Could be worse. If I play Hexing Squelcher, I think there's a decent chance that my opponent Hydroblasts it. I think I'm going to instead play to the timeline where my opponent taps out for Stock Up, and I instead get to 1 mana Hexing Squelcher, 3 mana Chaos Defiler, get rid of Atraxa uncounterably. I will take 7 from this attack, and I think more importantly, my opponent gains the life here. Ancient Tomb comes down, which is very unfortunate because that lets my opponent stock up with the Hydroblast available. Actually, I knew they had that, right? I know they have that. Do I just play Squelcher? I don't know. They could like ponder afterwards. Okay. My spell effectively is counterable, even if I play Hexing Squelcher first. I'm just going to play it like this and see if my opponent reacts. All right. Force of Will pitching stock up. At this point, I'm going to play this out in case I like need Overlord lines where I chain something together. All right, another land comes down. Oh, am I just going to die to a Lurin combo? Not immediately. I'll take 7. Opponent might just be attacking to simply have fewer Acererak clicks to do. Hydroblasting my Squelcher. Okay. Yep. We are dead to that. This was a rough league for ye old Heartless summoning deck. GG's. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. I don't think you should be playing Heartless summoning in Legacy. If you are going to ignore that advice and do that, I don't think this shell was that bad. I think we played reasonable Magic in every round that we just ended up on the wrong side of. Having played this league out, I don't think we get to get away with Fable in the deck. The Fable looting, growing the Pyroglyphs was very attractive to me from a deck building perspective because we have like enchantments and artifacts that we can send to the graveyard to make those things better. I think trying to steal some game ones with Magus of the Moon might have been better overall. The Heartless summonings were frequently just not good to cast. I think I leaned into enough of the big creature stuff, not counting Hexing Squelcher. I think 16 things that gets discounted by it is reasonable. Like 20 obviously would be better. I wanted to have a functional Magic the Gathering deck when I did not have Heartless summoning. That was the most important thing to me in trying to make this brew work. And most of the cards that want you to combo with Heartless summoning are terrible. Like all of those Mirror Retriever type cards that can create infinite loops with Heartless summoning, I think are just very, very bad when you do not have Heartless summoning. So I think the design of this deck list is pretty close to where it needs to be for a Heartless summoning deck. That is still reasonable when you don't have the Heartless summoning. The deck needs some other value-oriented 3-drop, or a 3-drop that threatens to end the game. And I think it wants to be a 3-drop. Like, I don't think you want to go up to 4 for something like Caves of Chaos Adventurer. I don't think something like Opposition Agent is strong enough, especially as a 2-1 body. So I'm not sure exactly what that should be. But I will say, I think we got some favorable pairings in that we got paired against show and tell decks that Chaos Defiler is very, very specifically in there to help beat, and we still ended up with a 1-4 record. So that is probably a sign that this is not worth exploring much further. We also got trashed by Tempo, and when your like Barrogoyf Hexing Squelcher deck gets trashed by Tempo, it feels like that's a bad sign. The third Boomerang Basics was insult to injury, though. I will say that. All right, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. If you have any ideas for other creatures we could have included in this deck, feel free to throw those down in the comments below. I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you have any ideas you want to see on the channel, the donation deck list queue is always open and looking for the spice. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya.